Hello, everybody. My name is Ian KawaiiGroovyCat. I'm an author, idiot, and lore streamer, and today is the first runner-up, first video of the month, which means it's LMIAY time. That is, last month I gave you guys a prompt to write a short story to, and y'all responded in spade. But before we get started, number one, if you enjoy what I do here on the channel, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Number two, if you would like to be featured on the channel, check out the links down in the description below. The number one way to be featured is through LMIAY, which is what we're doing here today. And there's now a new prompt up for anybody looking forward to next month. I'm sorry, it's a little late. The second way to be featured here is if you are an indie author and you have a book out or a book that is coming out. If you submit your first chapter and your cover to the feature, they'll be read here on the channel at a random interval to hopefully help the readers that are looking for your work find it. That's the main goal here, because I can't please everybody. Everybody's not gonna have my taste for what they're drawn to, but I still want to give as many authors a chance to like find their people as possible. And so since that is irrespective of my preferences, it gives the best chance for you to strut your stuff, so set your best leg forward. And then the third thing is, if you would like to check out any of my books, they are found anywhere that you get books, your favorite place to get books, including the local library upon request. With that said, let's get into this. Now, if you are not sure, if you... I feel like possibly the thumbnail might help. I have no idea what the thumbnail is going to be at this point, but hopefully the thumbnail said something about what today's prompt is. In case you didn't, here's your next hint. Now, this would be a genuine... Now, that's right. What you're looking at now is a genuine vampire head. As we all know, they glow, they sparkle like disco balls. I happened to get this in Kentucky, you know, the land of the vampires. And you just behead them. And at some point in history, and in some places still, you just hang those vampire heads around and party, basically dabbing on them to show who the boss, who the top predator of society is. And as long as you're hanging their sparkly heads, we know the vamps are not the top priority. And if they're, you know, if you're close enough, you can almost see some version of your twisted face in their face. It's a little freaky. Anyway, that brings us to what is, we'll just put the vampy head right here. Hopefully he stays there. That brings us to what today's prompt is, which was writing about vampires, specifically sparkly vampires, because, you know, it's like been 20 years since, almost 20 years since Twilight hit. Twilight, which had a huge impact on YA, on the current publishing landscape, though we're nowhere near that now. I wish we could go back to freaking sparkly vampires and get away from the freaking fae mates, but, you know... We need coffee mates. That's what we need. Anyway, so today we're doing an homage to the influence on literature that was that was Twilight and the sparkly vampires. So with that said, let's get into your guys' submissions. The first entry is by Mae Tanner. Kanta eyed the pods. The design had changed since the council ordered her stored in one. She stepped up to the nearest pod and glanced at Marild. Open this one, please. He swallowed audibly and moved to the headboard. Moments later, the lids slid to the side. Kanta peered inside. The occupant appeared sleeping, her shimmering silvery white hair in disarray. She touched the woman's wrist. There was no pulse. She's dead. Tears filled Marild's eyes. She touched his shoulder. We need to open all of the pods and see if any of my sisters are still alive. Must we do that now? No, we can take as much time as necessary. It's enough for now that we have a body to examine so that we can learn why she died. I expect the same explanation caused the death of all of my sisters. Thank you. I'll get through this. Close the pod until Golan gets here. Marild touched the pod's control panel and sealed the body inside. An hour passed before the door opened and a pair of Dearborn entered, accompanied by the diminutive, white-haired figure dressed in red. Kanta gazed into his violet eyes. Your name is Golan? That's right. What do you want? Marild told me that you're a coroner. Don't know what that is. I'm the crypt keeper. Can you tell how someone died by looking at their body? Yep. She waved toward the storage pod. This pod holds my sister's body. Please examine it and tell me how she died. Marild opened the pod, and Golan looked inside. He snorted and lifted up one sleeve of the body's blouse. He pointed at the corpse. She died the same way as the others. Kanta furrowed her brow and moved to look where Golan pointed. A wound on the body's shoulder stood out against the pale skin. What caused that? Golan waved his hand to the body's leg and exposed an identical wound on the hip. I don't know, but she's got no blood. Without blood, there's no life. Kanta leaned back on her throne as Golan gave his report. Her gorge rose, and she swallowed convulsively at the details. Someone had not only drained her sister's blood, they'd drilled into large bones and extracted the marrow. When Golan stopped talking, she closed her eyes. Do you have any idea who could have done this? Someone must be responsible. Golan shrugged. Nah, that ain't my forte. My realm is the dead. I'm in charge of the crypt. Is there someone who might know? He rubbed his chin. I suppose I could ask around. Kanta opened her eyes. Please, do that. My remaining sisters are still at risk. We need to know who killed the others. Beloved? Kanta turned. Marild stood behind her with Golan and a diminutive woman who had similar cast of features to the crypt keeper. Have you found something? Golan gestured to the woman. This is Tave. She's a healer. She told me that she knows something about the pods. Tave wrinkled her nose. Golan said that there were people in the marked pods that died. Yes, someone killed my sisters by stealing their blood and marrow. Tave folded her arms over her chest. I didn't know. I just did what she told me to. Kanta's brows drew together. What are you saying? Were you responsible for my sister's deaths? I won't say more unless you promise you won't blame me. It was all her doing. Who did this? Promise you won't blame me. Kanta sighed. I promise. I won't hold you accountable for something that you did unknowingly. The last beloved taught me how to use the medical pods. She didn't tell me the other people inside would die. She just said that we could only use each pod once, and they had to be marked, so that we wouldn't try to reuse them. What was it you did with the pods? There's an extra pod in the side room. Every 5 or 10 years, the beloved would get inside. She'd order a healer. She'd trained to connect to the fresh pod and set the controls. The pod had to stay connected for an hour before she could get out of her pod. None of us ever knew more than that. Kanta sank to the floor. You're saying that she killed our sisters? If what she had us do is what killed them, then yes. She told me that the procedure refreshed her and kept her young. Thank you for telling me what you know. You're free to leave. Tave bowed. Thank you, beloved. Very nice with this entry. There's a lot of tension and a lot of intrigue. And the way that it builds through and bringing in the other person. Also the dialogue being flipped. I like the style of this. There's also a note here that says this scene takes place after Trapped, which was February's submission, and also after Wish, which was last month's submission. So if you want to continue with this and get the full length of Mae Tanner's story, her link is down in the description below to her blog where you can find her work. The next story is by Ben Hayward. Welcome, Ben. I think your name is brand new to the list. Not to, make things awkward, but I like to try to be welcoming. I know, I kind of make things worse, but welcome. It hurt him every time, the flesh change. As he consumed the blood of another body, he could feel his gemstone skin turn back into mortal flesh. He sank his jaw deeper into the skin, pulling every drop of blood from his victim. He did not know them. He had plied them with food and drink, fattening the sow for the slaughter. In direct light, his skin reflected like a glass prism. The flesh change would allow him to go into the sun, if only for a few hours. He would need to kill again tomorrow to last the whole day. His mother, his sire, had requested his presence, and there was a long journey ahead of him. Around the corner, he could hear the heavy footsteps of some others leaving the bar and heading down the alley. He controlled himself and left the carcass limp in the alley. He heard their screams as they found it. He headed toward the train station and boarded the first train home. To the city, the hunting ground, the killing field. You look like you've been in a fight, lad. You look like you've been in a fight, lad. the passenger next to him said. A wave of panic came over him as he dabbed his hand on his cheek, and a few flecks of hot, wet blood came back. You should see the other guy, if you'd excuse me, he replied, holding his face to hide the imaginary bruise. The bathroom mirror showed that there were some blood patches across his face, like he had done a poor job shaving. He made sure to clean and consume every last drop. When he came back, the passenger was gone, but it was wise to move to another carriage in case they came back, in case they had questions for him. Night turned to dawn, and he could feel the sun pressing on his skin. He only had a few hours. He would need to kill again before he reached the destination. He got off the train in a town notable only for its stunning blandness. He checked into the hotel under a fake name and drained a cleaner, leaving their body on the bed. He was more careful to clean himself up this time. He caught the next train, taking pains to cover his skin as much as possible. It would delay the inevitable change back from skin to gem. He arrived in the city a few hours later as day became dusk. Pink clouds and the embers of the day cascaded over the rooftops with this limitless mausoleum. His mother had made her nest at its heart. Her roots were ancient, and she had played no small part in the growth while pruning the stray branches from the hedgerow. He was one of the last to arrive. His brothers and sisters were there. All were hunted like him. All, including him, were in various stages of the flesh change reverting. All were in black, but for their custom. His brother, the third scion of their mother and eldest still living, approached him. It is good to see you, brother. Mother refused to eat. She has not consumed the mortal's heart in months. She is dying. Pardon me. The last time he had laid eyes on her, she had been the queen, her ancient beauty unfettered by time, who would bathe in blood to keep her skin and hair in check. Now, most of her skin had turned to lifeless stone. It was cracked. Her hair had all but fallen out, besides a few clumps clinging to the islands of skin. Upon seeing him, she smiled and reached out in a sudden, desperate, muscular spasm for him to grasp her stony hand, forcing a smile before her eyes glazed over, motionless. Very nice. I love the description, the lead-in, the travel, the getting... And I like the way that it's... When they drink blood, their skin is less sparkly, so they can blend in better. And then, like, as his mother is dying, she's more turning into stone. Like, I love the evolution of the lore that's happening in this story. And I would love to know what's going to happen next. Like, because more of them are gathering. Is somebody going to get the power that she had? Is there going to be infighting? Is there going to, like... I am interested, and I love taking on, of all the things, you know, that you can make fun of Stephenie Meyer for with her sparkly vampires. At least she did something new, something fresh, even if it was like, it was something different. And in here, I see it evolving more into another thing, and I want to know more. I want to be surprised, and this was surprising. Thank you for submitting, Ben. And the next story is by Egao Chan, called Indecency. Landolf wheezed and coughed as Hilda held his trembling arm and carried him into the wooden shack. Droplets of cold, dark red blood dripped onto the ground from his fingertips, turned into little droplets of light upon crossing from the shadow into the wall of sunlight. Just leave me be, my love. Landolf's voice was weak. The hunters. They wouldn't hurt a human. If they had even a shred of honor you presume in them, then they wouldn't have ambushed us like that. Tears filled Hilda's eyes. Lie down. You lost coverage. I still have sunscreen in my backpack. My blood will lead them here. Landolf swallowed and groaned. They'll be here any minute. Shut up. I'm not leaving you. Hilda opened up her backpack. She was underprepared for situations like this. If only she brought some weapons. It was her stupid idea going to an early morning farmer's market. If anything would happen to him, she would never forgive herself. Landolf sipped from the small blood pack as Hilda applied sunscreen to his body. This would stop him from hurting and glowing under the sun. It should help them on their escape. There's a shovel there. Landolf pointed at a pile of hay at the corner of the shack. A weapon? Let me. Hilda immediately went over and started pulling on the almost completely buried wooden shaft. What she did not see was Landolf began rubbing his crotch at the moment she turned her back to him. Boom. The rickety wooden shack was completely torn down from just one kick. Sunlight poured in. Landolf grunted, not from the sun, but from the sight of two shadows before him. Two men in cloaks with crossbows in their hands cornered them. Hunters, once a respected profession, now no more than power-hungry and jealous scavengers. Don't touch him! Hilda put herself between Landolf and the hunters' crossbows. You'll have to go through me. Stand down, Miss Sunscreen. We're here for the glowy. One hunter scoffed. Get off of him, before I slap a lesson into your head. What happened to the house of Belmont and Luke, huh? Landolf struggled up, facing the sunlight. Names of pride, honor, balance, now taken and abused by lesser sons for coin. That was before the invention of these. One hunter chuckled and pulled out a purple glow stick radiating an ethereal, hypnotizing aura. Who knew your kind's foul, sparkling blood could make such intoxicating party supplies? Merchants of disco, Hilda spat. What a fucking disgrace. Kiss me, Landolf whispered and pulled Hilda closer. Their lips met and mashed against each other. His lips were cold, but hot with passion, desire, and life. All right, that's enough, one hunter cursed. Know a little shame. Too bad. Landolf pulled Hilda aside, a smirk on his face. You'll never know passion and love like this. Before either of the hunters could respond, Landolf pulled down his rugged pants. A blinding white light exploded from between his thighs. Even with their eyes closed, glaring white marks were burned into the hunter's vision. Motherfucker! Son of a bitch! When the hunters finally regained their sight, Landolf and Hilda were long gone. A crystallized shaft was left on the ground, glistening. Who knew that vampire's blood could shine so bright? Egao. How do you do it? How do you come up with this? Also, I love the sparkly vampire having drug blood. I know that the use of blood has been, for like drugs, has been used in multiple things before. But I specifically like the way you did this. Also, I mean, I guess showing off the barnyard animals is a way to get away. The next story is by Mike Vanhoose. Father of the Hull. I don't know about this, Jim. Hunting vampires seems kinda stupid to me, especially here. I mean, look around. We're downtown. Shouldn't vampires live in some kind of gloomy-ass old mansion out there in the sticks? Russ had a point. Everything I ever read about vampires pointed to out-of-the-way places. Plantation homes covered in Spanish moss and rickety porch furniture, not brownstones or high-rises. Yet, here we were. I know. But this is the best info that we got. I pulled a faded, wrinkled piece of notepaper pad from my pants pocket. Court Summerall, 823 East Jessamine Street, Suite 39, Louisville. I told you, Kentucky. Get these. I craned my neck to... You know what? Mike would know. Oh my gosh, Mike. He would know the reference. I was like, only people familiar with with Kentucky would get Glitter City. I only learned about Glitter City like a few years ago. What was it? Probably 2021. I craned my neck to look. The building was 3 times as big as anything I'd ever stepped in. Black windows covered all 4 sides, reflecting the bright sunshine into my face. If a vampire was in there, it had to be behind a sunblocker. The UV would kill it otherwise. Come on, Ross. We got business. I patted the black leather case in my hand. It felt insufficient for our task, but was guaranteed by the manufacturer to kill any vampire. All I'm saying, Jim, is to stop and think about this. Vampires are a protected species. Ain't no different than killing an eagle. Why do we need to kill this Summerall dude? My face flushed. We'd been all over this. You know them damn leeches drained my sister. Now she's holed fast in one of them fucking covens or broods, whatever you call them. Ever since they came out to the world, they've been running around eating people like their prime rib. I pushed past Russ into the lobby of the apartments complex and took a seat. The clasp on the leather case unsnapped with ease. I pointed to the contents and shoved them in Ross's lap. Look! The contents, seated nicely in cushed red velvet, were labeled in white. 3 vials of holy water blessed by the Archbishop of Canterbury. 1 clove of dried garlic. 1 crucifix necklace. 1 crucifix hand held 6 inches wide, 8 inches tall. 6 oak stakes. 1 rawhide mallet. Instructions were included on the proper slaying of vampires with the disclaimer that the kit and all of its contents were for amusement purposes only. I knew better. All I'm saying, Jim, is that we don't need to do this. I felt my heart race, sweat beaded from my brow, and I slammed the case closed. She was your fucking fiancée, Russ. If you don't want to hang around, then get the fuck out. If not, shut your mouth and follow me. I leapt into the faux leather couch and pushed the elevator up button. Russ was a step behind, shaking his head. The door opened with a ding, thankfully empty. My racing heart picked up more speed, and I could feel my senses becoming more heightened. I looked at the punchboard of numbers. The last one, 39, looked back at me, daring me to push it. The ride up to the top took less time than I would have imagined. An eerie silence took the place of mechanical whirling and bells ringing as the door slid open. Staring into the short hallway, I paused, bringing the briefcase to my chest before I stepped outside. The opening of the case, I handled the vial of holy water to Russ, gave him 2 stakes, and made him put on the necklace crucifix. I took the other 2 waters, the mallet, and 2 stakes of my own, along with a clove of garlic. Ready? I asked Russ, but was truly asking myself. He was sickly looking. I thought that he might vomit. He nodded instead. Surprisingly, the door to the suite was unlocked. Opening slowly, I stepped inside, where the weak sound of a television caught my attention. I recognized it. RuPaul was directing contestants across a stage. His tall, lanky stature sat in the contrast against his high-pitched, giggly, and wide smile. Russ and I both stood in amazement. The entire suite was decorated in the most over-the-top decorations I'd ever seen. Pictures of Liberace, Freddie Mercury, Rock Hudson, and Neil Patrick Harris adorned walls of gold-gilded linen. Stark white carpeting in the entire floor. Standing beside a miniature statue of David was a young man, muscular and oiled. The top of his face was covered in a black leather mask. A matching black collar around his neck led to a tight pair of black leather briefs. The front was studded with rhinestone. "Can I help you?" His limp voice caught me unaware. I choked on my response. I don't know, I think. Another man, older and exquisitely feminine, sashayed into the room with us. Dressed in a loose, sheer robe, barely tied up at the waist, he almost floated to Russ and I. "May I help you with something?" Russ spoke. No. I think, maybe this?" The older man spoke. "A mistake, sweetheart?" Well, maybe it is, honey. Maybe it's not. Judging by the looks of those stakes in your hands, you found the right place." He held out the most delicate hand I'd ever seen on a man. "If you're looking for Cord Summerall, here I am." He sounded like he was cooing. Looking at the young man in leathers, Court blew a kiss. "Sister Matthew, you may see yourself out. These men..." I saw a look of hunger flash in his eyes. "These men are mine." Court bit his bottom lip and purred. Every nerve in me wanted to fight, run, or scream, but I was so mystically enamored by him that all I could do was look into those beautiful red eyes. Russ was not as frozen as me. He pulled the crucifix necklace out and shouted, "Demon! Evil demon! Be gone from us!" Court looked at Russ. "Girl, that shit don't work. Look at this." Court reached for my hand. His fingers brushed against mine in such an electric way that all I could do was shiver. It was orgasmic in a way I'd never felt. Taking a bottle of holy water, he uncorked it and drank half. The other half he poured on his hands. "See? Nothing. Sorry I'm not dead." I felt the words before I heard them. "No, I'm not sorry at all. Fuck this, I'm gone." Ross ran for the door. Court waved a hand and the door slammed shut. Russ stood beating against it, trying to break it down. "Forget the door. You can't break it." Taking a carefully manicured nail and pushing one of my stray hairs out of my eyes, Court whispered into my ear, "Would you like to hear my story?" I nodded. I was born in 1792. I grew a family here, watched them grow and move away. When I was 53, I was bitten by a roving vampire who left me to turn on my own. Needless to say, I have been around a long time. Jim, snap out of it. The vampire has you mind-boggled, Russ yelled. I could hear him, but my attention was on Court. Court looked past me to Russ. You're right, honey. He's mine. But I'm no vampire. I'm a glampire. Court walked to the middle of the room and clapped his hands high. Sudden, loud club music pumped through the walls of the suite. A large disco ball lowered from the ceiling, peppering the walls with circular flickers. I felt my shoulders start to move in rhythm with the music. Russ shouted. I danced a what the fuck? Glampire, sweetie. I drank an HIV patient in the early 80s. While it wrecks your immune system, it doesn't kill us. It gives us something that we call the sparkles. It attracts our like kind. Flipping his robes and swaying to Russ. You're obviously immune, but your friend, pointing to me, is one of us. Aren't you, Jim? I was lost in the music. I guess I am. Do I get to sparkle too, Court? I don't remember the bite. All I remember is the sweetest pain, and now I spend my days and nights dressed in leathers and thongs watching Queer Eye and the L Word with Sister Matthew. A glampire? Beautiful, Mike. Oh my gosh, we need the glampire revolution. That is what we have been missing all of this time now. The glampire is. The glampire running the glampire. You know, like an empire, but it's all sparkly. I don't know. I feel like Kentucky, specifically Glitter City, is like the place for a vampire story. Do we even have one yet? Because the more I think about it, the more perfect it is. The next story is by R.S. Alessi. Another year, another school. I'd like to say that I don't know why the elders put me through this, but I do. 76 years ago, I made a teensy mistake that got half of our family killed, and I've got another 23 years before my penance is done. That's right, repeating the 10th grade for 99 years is how the elders decided to punish me for being an idiot. Everyone's staring at me when I arrive. I suppose it's because I'm tall, pale, and handsome. Handsome isn't a word normally used to describe women, but it fits me. I'm not actually a woman. I'm not even a girl, though I pass for one. I'm a vampire. I shift my backpack and pick my way through the clusters of idly chatting teens. I want to scream at them, tell them that their lives are too short to get caught up in whatever idiotic drama they're creating for themselves, but they won't listen. They never do. Hey, new girl. The aughts called. They want their Uggs back. I turn to give the speaker a soul-chilling glare. Miss Blondie snaps her mouth shut and breaks eye contact. I note the boy beside her. He'll be mine next week. The fashion faux pas is intentional. I'll wear this out-of-date wardrobe for a month until I befriend a socially savvy popular girl who will take me under her wing and turn me into a swan, just in time to get voted the sophomore homecoming queen. I've been running this hustle for decades. I'm halfway to class when I spot him. No way. Another vampire. He spots me at the same time. Recognition and irritation contort his features before he soothes them away. He's looking like trouble in motorcycle leathers, complete with helmet under one arm. A growl rumbles in my chest. Of course we're going to fight. The question isn't if, but when. Apparently we're going to do it now, because he walks straight up to me and says, "You're in my school." How do you figure? You don't even look like a high schooler. He doesn't. With that beard, he wouldn't get carded at a bar. You've been here for 6 minutes. I've been here for 6 years. I snort. 6 years? How's that work? I, got arrangements with the irrelevant. You will leave now. He's using his best command voice on me, but of course it fails. That shit is for humans, not vampires. Who's your family? I ask. None of your business. I smirk. None of your business translates to, I don't have one. Since that's what'll happen to me if I violate my penance, I'm not leaving. Bring it. One thing most people don't know about vampires are cool powers don't work on each other. Not enough to give us a competitive advantage. I got a few tricks. Hopefully they're enough to win this fight. The hall goes quiet, because teens have an uncanny instinct when it comes to fights. As I circle the other vampire, I realize I don't know his name. Certain traditions should be upheld. Miranda, I say. Eric, he mutters. We size each other up. I'm older than him, I decide. Or he's masking it. A fair tactic, but since he's already got me on size, I'm not going to underestimate him. I notice he's breathing. Wow, he really is young. I half consider postponing the fight. Beating his ass in front of the whole school will ruin my hustle. Everyone will learn the truth about me, and then I'll have to... Pow! The motorcycle helmet slams into my head, and I'm arching sideways. I land on a couple of students. Eric comes through the air after me, ready to pound me some more, so I roll to the left. I'm up, on my feet behind him. I punch him in the back of the head, and then he sprawls forward. I raise an Ugg-booted foot to bash his head in. Hold it right there. I freeze. That voice belongs to an adult. And Eric uses the opportunity to grab my foot and twist. I roll with it, which puts me back on my ass. The man in the neatly pressed navy suit and a yellow bow tie strides over. Eric, what did I tell you about fighting? What did I tell you? Eric, studying the terrazzo tile on the floor like it's hiding a universal truth. That I'd be expelled. Exactly. So what are you doing? I'm welcoming this new student to our school. Good. I expect all of our students to make this year's newcomer feel welcome, which does not involve beating them. Understood, Eric? Yes, sir. Eric picks up the motorcycle helmet and dusts off his clothes. I eye him warily as I stand. The adult and the gathered students are watching to see what will happen next. Welcome to Humboldt High, Miranda. Eric sticks out his hand and I shake it. By vampire law, Eric just gave me permission to reside in his territory. But was it for show? He seemed to sense my uncertainty. I mean it. Stay out of the way, and I'll stay out of yours. I nod, and the tension in the crowd eases. Picking a fight with the biggest, meanest kid in school is not how I wanted to start my year. I'll have to rethink some things. Eric leans over and whispers in my ear. No, you owe me. I whip around. Hardly, I hiss back. You were about to get kicked out of your own turf. I get expelled every week. I'm letting you stay, so you owe me. I think about the penance that'll happen if this entrenched vampire doesn't let me squat his turf. Tell me what you want. I want in. What? You heard me. Get me an invite to your family. I roll my eyes. I'm not exactly a member in good standing. Doesn't matter. Promise me you'll do everything in your power to make it happen, and I'll share my territory with you. He extends his hand, and once again, we're shaking. What did I just agree to? You guys, this is going to be the 2020s Twilight. I have a good feeling. I have a good feeling about this. The vibe, the style, of bringing something new to the vampires in school situation. Ruth, this is a great addition to the fresh vampire situation. The next story is by KawaiiGroovyCat. Welcome back, KawaiiGroovyCat. It's been a while, and Happy New Year. My transitioning skills are not great. I'm sorry. This isn't happening. The world distorts. My body grows cold. Feeling vanishes from my fingertips. This can't be happening. I cough up blood once, and then I try to keep running. I try to run away from him, even as I feel myself being drained of life in all sorts of places. This can't possibly be. Soon, I lose all sensation in my body, and the last thing that I'm able to feel is concrete hitting my face. This isn't real. And he would never. It hurts. But strangely, I'm in so much pain that I can't feel anything. I don't even feel like I'm dying. Instead, it's more like the world around me is disappearing. And that's when I know that I'm dead. And that's when I know that I'm dead. I've never been strong, so I could only lie to myself until now. It's because I'm weak that I couldn't hope to fight back against him or even run away. It's only my final moments that I regain any semblance of lucidity before I'll fade away forever. But the only thing that I'm capable of doing is cursing the name of the one responsible for putting me in this situation. I can't speak these thoughts out loud, but even if I could, I'm sure nobody would be able to hear me. I can't even hear anything anymore. Even though I should be dead, I still somehow am able to open my eyes, and it still looks like I'm on this planet. I'm in an unfamiliar room, and the only light in this otherwise dark place is a lamp on the nightstand to the right of the bed that I'm lying on. Where? As soon as I speak, I start to feel terribly sick. I can taste blood in my mouth. I'm not sure why I feel like this, but I feel the sudden urge to take a shower. Though it's not like I'd be able to, even if I knew where I was. I can hardly move my body at all. I'm not sure if it's nausea or pain, but it feels like someone poured burning lead down my throat and into my stomach, and then force-fed me an entire cell phone. Sorry, I heard an unfamiliar voice say. It's quite cramped in here, but I didn't think that it was that unpleasant of a place to be in. I tilt my head, just about the only movement that I can manage, and that is when I notice her. A woman with hair so black that it appears blue, and striking green eyes. She's certainly beautiful, but there's something unnatural about her. Either way, it seems like this place must be hers. I suppress my nausea and ask her, "Who are you?" "You can call me whatever you'd like," the woman replies, glancing at the window before looking back down at me. "My real name is something that I've lost all rights to, but the details hardly matter at this point. I suppose you could say that I saved your life, or perhaps that I brought you back to life, and for that I must say that I'm sorry." I let out a noise of confusion. I don't really understand what she's saying, and I especially don't know what she could be sorry for. "You weren't simply almost killed. With how miserable your condition was when I found you, it's not an exaggeration to say that you were actually killed. No human being could possibly survive what you have." An image flickers in my mind, the night sky and the moonlight hitting red concrete, except that it isn't supposed to be red. It's only like that because of me. Now I remember, I was stabbed and cut all over, and I think that there were even pieces of me that were cut off of my body. I tried to run away from my attacker, someone that I thought I knew before he showed me his true colors, but I fell and bled out and died, and then I somehow lived thanks to this person who lives here. That's the simple truth, or at least the part of it that I can clearly recall and comprehend, and I'm surprised at myself for admitting it. I don't like thinking about things like this, so I normally push those thoughts out of my head and force myself to think about more pleasant things, lying to myself about the things that I don't want to think about. "Oh," is all I'm able to say. I'm not really sure how to feel yet. Suddenly, I hear a woman getting up and walking around me to a curtain on my left. "Don't freak out," she says, "but I'm going to show you why I'm sorry." She slowly pulls back the curtain, and the first thing that I realize is that it's day, possibly the middle of the day. The second thing I realize is that this woman is red, not because she's hurt, but because she's sparkling where the sun is hitting her. I don't know how, but somehow I know what this means. "I don't know if you understand this, but I'm a vampire," she says, staring straight out the window. "Our kind aren't supposed to exist. Not openly, anyway. Heretics, monsters, abominations, whatever term you want to use." She pulls back the curtain a little more, until I can feel the heat of the sun hitting my face. I squint as she pulls out a compact mirror from her pocket. "Let me reiterate," she states, opening it and holding it in front of my face, "that I'm sorry." My face is dark purple, shimmering in the light. Suddenly, I feel so sick that I want to take out my stomach so that it'll stop bothering me, because I'm not human anymore. This is another one. Oh my gosh, I love the idea of the vampires being shiny like gemstones, having like gemstone skin in the sunlight. That is brilliant in more ways than one. You know, brilliant like a gem, and brilliant is also in like mentally, intellectually brilliant. The things that you could do with gemstone skinned vampires. This is an incredible start, and I love the way the introduction, the way that it brought it. I missed your writing, KawaiiGroovyCat. The next story is by Grumble. She followed the trail past the front of the coffee shop and down another street. It was everywhere. stuck into the cracks of the sidewalk and plastered across every window in every building and car that she passed. Soon it led her down a side street where she found a body of another victim, pale and blue from being drained of enough blood to fill a 600-year-old vampire for at least a week. The worst part was that a full draining meant the vile creature would be sweating even more glitter, contaminating everything that it touched or so much as breathed on, with enough sparkles to keep makeup companies in business for years. She'd had enough. A new victim was drained every week, and every time the city became more and more drenched in glitter, she thought about checking if the body had an ID on him. But that would mean getting the stuff on her, and she'd done so well at avoiding that so far, she decided to leave it. She'd be lying if she said she cared about the victims anyway. Her only goal was to make sure that she never saw light gleam across another microplastic again. There was a door beside the dead body, and she realized that she was at the back door of a local nightclub. She pushed it open and walked inside. There was music blasting, and what few people were surrounding a man dancing in the very middle of the dance floor. His skin glowed. The strobe lights bounced off of his skin, made him resemble a disco ball. He was a handsome man with dark blonde hair and honey brown eyes, the sheen of his cheekbones putting even the most dedicated e-girl to shame. Not waiting for even a moment longer, she shot her gun twice, catching him directly in the chest and stomach. She barely noticed as people began to scream and scatter in different directions. She'd never shot a vampire before, hadn't even known that they existed until a month earlier when the killings had started, and she noticed the glittery trail left somewhere, like some kind of flamboyant calling card. She knew immediately that she'd made a massive mistake. The creature began to swell, his eyes wide with horror as his body expanded like an overfilled balloon. He swelled to 5 times his original size, his clothes tearing from the expansion. The entire room glowed as the lights reflected off the stretched-out, mirror-like skin. Finally, unable to expand further, it exploded, spewing gold, red, and green glitter in all directions. She covered her face just in time, missing getting it in her eyes by mere seconds. But later, she would regret not letting it blind her then and there. She'd never get it out of her skin, never get it out of her line of sight. The entire city, and maybe further still, was going to be coated in shimmering rainbow for years. This is the origin of Glitter City. Actually, I really love that. I would love like a noir-style mystery where there is just the glitter left behind, because the vampires, when they suck your blood, it's just like glitter gets left on what they touch. That's so fun. Oh my gosh. That would be so fun to play with a monster kind of city. Or just, you know, it depends on how you want to do. All of the vampires wear gloves because when they touch things that leaves glitter behind. Grumble, this is so fun. I love this idea. The final story of the month is by Willow1428, which is another person submitting for the first time. Welcome. I can speak. Good to have you. Black leather boots hit the gravel street of a remote town in a hilly countryside as a man stepped out of the bus. He wore a black leather cloak, was built like a truck, and his manner of walking exuded violence. Another thug has come to disturb us, everyone thought upon seeing the outlandish man. Already, the out-of-town workers from a nearby construction project had vandalized the town. The following nightly disappearances of young women have added to the general distrust of outsiders. He was no tourist either, as this was the wrong season, and anyway, he didn't look the type. Still, the man went straight to the town's hostel. As he entered the reception, the old woman informed him, "We're closed." "The sign outside says open," the man gruffly replied. "We are closed for the likes of you," the young man said, stepping out from the back rooms behind the reception desk, eyeing the man with suspicion. The man paused for a moment before saying calmly, "I am not here to cause trouble. I've just come to visit for the sights, and only for a day." The young man didn't reply, looking at him as if trying to stare down the thug. It was a brave thing to do for a man almost twice his size. The scarred man sighed and said, "Look, I'm really not here to bother anyone. I'm try to see it from my perspective. I'm already stuck here. The next bus will only come tomorrow." That didn't convince anyone. They will not lose sleep having him spend the night at the bus stop. He tried to change tactics. If pity didn't work, how about money? As I am such an inconvenience, how about I'll pay double, triple? He paused, waiting for a response. In cash? The old woman asked. He nodded. Fine, she replied as she took out the keys to a room. The man reached for his wallet in his back pocket. As he did so, something silvery shined just a moment from under his coat. The young man loudly gulped. The man didn't react, trying not to draw attention to it. He just took out the agreed sum and handed it. The older woman gave the keys to the room, saying, It's the room upstairs, first door on the right. I'll be back this evening. The man took the keys and went back out. The young man, sensing trouble, followed him. The thug kept his word and went to the park. There, he inspected the recently damaged statue. It was a statue of a local saint vandalized by those workers who came from the capital. This caused a huge disagreement, and even a big city media was involved. The damage to the statue was severe. There were several large cuts covering it. They had to be fashioned using a pick or a claw. No animal did this, leaving the fault to the workers. After inspecting the statue, the thugs headed toward the local church. Figuring that he hadn't been noticed, the young man continued to tail them discreetly. Today, the church was closed. But that didn't dissuade him as he confidently approached the entrance and knocked loudly on the large wooden church doors. The young man found this extremely rude and, even worse, sacrilegious. He was about to get out of his hiding spot and give the thug a stern talking to. However, before he could, the door opened and the thug was ushered in. This was very unusual. It was as if he was expected. What business did the pastor have with him? Almost an hour passed when the church doors parted again and the thug and the priest went out. The pastor even blessed the man. As he walked away, the young man confronted the priest. Father, what's the meaning of this? Michael? What are you doing, hiding and eavesdropping? Flustered, the priest deflected. It's not me who is giving blessings to armed thugs coming into our town. Father, what is your business with that man? He asked again. Son, I will not have you accusing me of shady dealings. He paused and continued more calmly. I understand what you went through, but lashing out like this is unacceptable. You better go home, Michael, and mourn properly. The priest said, closing the doors. The young man was fuming with anger. The pity in the priest's face and the reluctance to explain himself all confirmed his guilt. The thug had set out for the mountainside, and Michael had little time before he lost him. But this was something that he needed to do. Before he confronted the thug, he quickly ran back home and searched for his father's old rifle. Michael knew this countryside well, as he worked as a guide during the summer. The problem was that the recent construction work had disturbed the mountainside as well. The old caves were blocked and the new ones opened. There isn't any way to know where the man could be hiding. Luckily, he was able to track him down to a small cave along the sheer mountain wall in the shadows of the trees, and he found him as he was crawling into a cave. Michael thought of coming out of the bushes and confronting the man here and now, but he decided that it'd be better to catch him coming out, so he waited. After a short while, 3 shots echoed from within the cave, and right after, 3 more. Michael gripped his rifle tight and snuck beside the flat of the wall, waiting near the opening. Suddenly, there was a loud thrashing sound coming from inside. Michael aimed his gun at the small opening leading into the cave. A mummified-looking man came out, crawling fast out of the cave. He had crystals growing all over his wretched body like tumors. He turned toward Michael, baring his bloody canines, and screeched with an inhuman voice. Michael unloaded the rifle into the demonic creature, but that seemed to do little more than annoy it. The beast lunged at him, and both of them fell to the ground. He got the rifle stuck between the jaw of the beast. The metal parts creaked while they wrestled to the ground. Then Michael gathered all of his strength and kicked the monster away. With his rifle still in his mouth, the creature stumbled away into the small, lit area not covered by trees. Suddenly, Michael was blinded by the light reflecting off the crystal. But as abruptly as the sparkling started, it went out. The demon got caught in flame and was reduced to ash. I like that this one was traveling into the mountain. Well, a dude traveling into the mountains. Suspicious. It felt, I was getting some not necessarily St. Gregory vibes, but kind of similar-ish in like small town, creature, going into the woods. I really liked this style of it. And also, this feels like a contained story on its own, without it having to be longer. Like some of the others from today feel like they were the start of something like prologues or chapter 1s. This feels like a a short story. So thank you everybody for hanging out. Those are all of the stories for this month, and y'all are rejuvenating the sparkly vampire, bringing new ideas to the sparkly vampires, and y'all are so creative. I love these. With that said, let me know what your favorite is down in the comments below. Check out these creators if they have left any contact data for their stuff. It'll be in the description. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. Have a great week, and don't die.
Was that Wayland Cross in the trunk? Do you know, or is that something that's still being figured out?
The person in the trunk was not Wayland Cross.
Is he in trouble?
We don't know who did it, but as the owner of the car, the longer he's missing, the worse it looks for him.
Cross isn't a killer. For the last couple of years, the average number of murders in Baltimore has been over 300, and it's been going up. Mind you, that's only whatever the badges count as official murder, and believe me, there are people that don't count when they die. Wayland? If you're down here, tell me. I'm not talking to the badges, I've been looking for you. They found a body in your trunk. Way. Why? Did you do that? To the left, plain black letters read along the wall. You walked in the corridor. Once that ends, you chose the dark is on the right. My vision goes blurry, flickers black and black and black for longer intervals until I can't see anything at all. I'm not screaming anymore, but my voice echoes back to me. Where the hell am I? You're dead, Josephine. Even smart people do stupid shit sometimes, right?